20 minutes, we have our next keynote speaker, Marie Robinson, Executive Vice President and Chief Supply Chain Officer at Sysco. Marie?
Thanks for that, Wink. I'm really pleased to be with all of you today. You know, I've had the highest admiration for USC and its programs for many years. I spent 6 years actually working at Smart and Final there in Los Angeles, and during that time I was privileged to sponsor several participants in USC's Food Industry Management program, and I was always impressed with the experiences those participants gained and the acceleration in their career paths that I saw as a result. So it's an honor to be with you here today. At Sysco, I'm responsible for the end-to-end efficient and effective movement of product from our suppliers through Sysco's more than 300 operating sites and ultimately to hundreds of thousands of customers, all in the food industry, as you guys were just referencing in your panel discussion. The COVID-19 pandemic has, of course, had a vast impact to so many business sectors, including the food service and restaurant industry. You know, JFK famously pointed out that when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. Perhaps Rahm Emanuel stated it somewhat more succinctly, you know, never let a serious crisis go to waste. At Sysco, we're determined to follow that advice, and we're taking rapid action to use the pandemic crisis as an opportunity to accelerate the transformation of our core business. And this is the focus of my comments today. As supply chain professionals, we've all likely participated in discussions about ways to advance our vital segment of business operations. Unfortunately, it's been my experience that many times, many of these ideas end up on the cutting room budget floor, so to speak. And that's because our priorities tend to be primarily focused on cost containment and optimization of process, whereas many times addressing risk in the supply chain requires substantial investment and change. And over time, we've become experts at optimizing the supply chain, but COVID demands that we look more broadly at our role in meeting strategic goals of our businesses. As we all navigate this unique pandemic time, we should examine the host of unique business cases and new learnings that have presented themselves and consider how these could or should impact the evolution of our supply chain organizations. This requires a transformation mindset and consideration of a broad slate of initiatives that touch on the impact of digital transformation, considering how or whether to increase supplier and partner diversification, and the role of company culture. So let me first touch upon the importance of digital transformation. You know, I've worked in supply chain roles for more than 30 years, beginning my career as a logistics army officer. Since then, I've worked in the retail and food industries across a broad spectrum, all the way from Walmart and Toys R Us to Michael Kors. Over that time, I've seen the power that digital transformation unleashes for our organizations and the benefits it drives for our customers. You know, I remember years ago as a brand new supervisor in a Walmart distribution center, part of my job was to manage the productivity of my team members. And in order to do that, each week I would get reams of green bar paper, and I would take a ruler and some highlighters, and I would try to go through all of these reports using a rule set and try to determine who needed a coaching, needed some training, was performing well or not performing well. Today, a supervisor responsible for similar metrics would receive an alert on a mobile device guiding the need for a coaching event or a recognition moment, and then would probably use that same device to leverage digital assets to assist with that management moment. So we've come a long way. And yet we know that change is the only constant, and as our digital capabilities continue to increase, we have more and more opportunities to expand those horizons. As we in the profession consider the next steps for innovation in the supply chain, we've looked at how AI could impact our work for years. I believe COVID is now providing a burning platform to accelerate this change. Transformation at Sysco today includes accelerating implementation of digital platforms and transforming our sales process to generate growth and enhance our customer service. This means implementing new digital projects that will put data in the hands of our sales consultants to help our customers make better decisions about their own businesses, and new pricing tools to ensure consistent and efficient approaches across our business. As I mentioned previously, supply chain professionals have become experts at optimizing our important function. However, we have to ensure that in doing so, we're aligning with the important strategic efforts that are broader. What we've learned through COVID is that our data needs to be just as agile as we've had to be during this crisis. The systems that we've historically used to forecast and replenish goods are optimized for consistency and known knowns. Clearly, this has not been the name of the game during the pandemic, where changing regulations and situations from day to day, city to city, state to state, and country to country have led to an extraordinarily disrupted dynamic supply chain environment. Not only have we had to find new suppliers for new or previously low volume items like PPE, but we've had to find new suppliers for items for which demand increases rapidly, like individually wrapped cutlery packs. In order for a replenishment system to work for us in a crisis and to work better for us during ordinary times, we need to draw on new and more automated sources of data. Typical systems today will, of course, suggest an order for every item based on a set of parameters, year over year, recent weeks, some combination of those. We all know that today, year over year is meaningless, month over month is meaningless. We need to be forecasting real-time demand based upon the dynamic world around us. Today, those same replenishment and forecasting engines can take weeks to adjust to changes in data because they smooth trends, and therefore they always end up chasing trends. In the future, we expect that supply chain replenishment systems will incorporate new data sets to be able to react more quickly. You know, in retail roles, weather routinely has an impact on sales trends. Simply incorporating automated weather data alone allows retailers to react more quickly and avoid manual intervention during a crisis, whether big or small. We should be applying that same concept across any number of relevant data sets, whether it be school openings, health data, mobile phone movements, real-time restaurant orders and reservations or the like, and through the entire supply chain continuum, adding or mining strategic data throughout the process to support strategic goals, increasing visibility and efficiency, and adding more value for our customers. At Sysco, we're asking ourselves, how do we transform the definition of a food distributor? We know that we can't survive by only being tactical and transactional. We have to be a transformational partner for our customers. In doing so, we increase our ability to become a real partner by providing insights into our customers' business and creating so much value that we become an instrumental driver of their success. You know, we think about a world in which we are using demand signals to help a small local restaurant owner see coming trends and create menu offerings to take advantage of those trends in a profitable manner, much more than just selling them food. This ultimately creates a stickiness in the relationship that they hopefully find very difficult to live without. Let me now shift to talking a little about diversification within supply chain systems. You know, another observation relates to the way we think about supplier diversity, and in particular, will risk related to the density of suppliers and distribution hubs finally get its place at the table due to COVID? You know, for many supply chain professionals, the development of deep and broad relationships with key suppliers has been foundational to achieving efficiencies, reducing costs, and increasing stability. You think about cost of goods. You want to go big with your suppliers because you can get better inbound efficiencies and you can negotiate lower costs. At Sysco, we're proud of the deep supplier relationships and the diversified supply chain we've developed across products and geographies over many years. Those relationships provide many benefits that help us more effectively serve our customers and manage through isolated market shocks. For example, in the food industry, we routinely see events that may temporarily disrupt the food supply chain, from a late freeze that impacts a citrus harvest to viruses that can impact herds of animals. At these times, our long-standing supplier relationships can often ensure that we continue to get our share of reduced product availability or even get all of the contracted amount of product we need to service our customers. However, the extreme circumstances driven by COVID required that, in some cases, we moved very quickly to find new vendors as suppliers' ability to produce what our customers wanted shifted, or when the demand for certain items increased rapidly. For example, demand for individually wrapped items has significantly increased as restaurants, healthcare providers, and schools seek to serve more to-go or grab-and-go options. While COVID is hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime event, natural disasters can create similar, albeit more localized, sourcing challenges. Think about the risk that we know that comes from the concentration of hubs or distribution sites or ports. More than 40% of the total containerized cargo entering the United States and nearly 30% of the nation's exports, of course, flow through the California port system. The importance of this system is undeniable, which makes enduring a strike of workers undeniably painful. During a 2012 strike, CNN reported that 8-day strike was estimated to cost the nation's economy about $1 billion a day. In addition, tens of thousands of truckers, railroad, warehouse, and other support workers were temporarily out of work. While these events are not routine, when they do occur, you can't help but begin to think about diversifying the risk presented by concentrating so much product through one area. But adding this kind of diversity into the system also adds cost. And in many cases, the cost of the investment to develop new hubs is often greater than the perceived risk. These experiences have led to interesting discussions about considering the balance between cost optimization, investment, and reduction of supply chain risk. Are we now at a pivot moment when risk mitigation comes to the table during every project proposal alongside return on investment or net present value? Will diversification of supply be a factor alongside cost of goods? And if so, will that last when a new normal finally emerges? I, of course, don't have the long-term answers to these questions, but I know that it is our obligation to ask them. Finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about culture. My final observation relates to a matter, or rather a group of people for whom I have a deep personal affinity, the people that really make our supply chains hum. My first job out of college was as an Army transportation platoon leader. In this role, I was truly a working leader. We all had to have our own CDLs and to be prepared to literally take the wheel during battle. As a result, I had the opportunity to get a firsthand look at the critical and hard work truck drivers bring to supply chains. At Sysco, our truck drivers, whom I like to refer to as delivery consultants, are literally the face of Sysco to our customers and are instrumental in helping to nurture these most important business relationships. Their jobs are foundational to Sysco's success, and as are similar roles at other companies and industries, not to mention to our economy as a whole. In fact, more than 80% of U.S. communities depend solely on trucking for delivery of their goods and commodities. The trucking sector is the backbone of our supply chain, and its importance cannot be overstated. Unfortunately, there has been a growing shortage of drivers over the last 5 years, and COVID appears to have accelerated this issue in a massive way. Industry experts believe that the ongoing issues of retirements, job satisfaction, now combined with pandemic fatigue, are setting the industry up for continued compression in the ranks of drivers. This series of events may have serious implications to our nation's economy. The importance of our frontline workers is often overlooked by many in the public who don't have the privilege of working with this hardworking and dedicated group like I do. And while COVID has added pressures to the trucking sector, it also seems to have resulted in a real awakening by the public of these frontline heroes. I, for one, hope that as our economy begins to recover from the ravages of COVID-19, we won't lose sight of this recognition and appreciation for these important people. As we consider how all of this will play out, I believe that the sector must do a better job of valuing, developing, and appropriately paying these vital roles. At Sysco, we're proud to be an employer of choice in the communities we serve. We provide top-tier pay and benefits to our drivers because we recognize their importance and we want them to stay with us as part of the Sysco family throughout their careers. You know, just last week, it was National Truck Driver Appreciation Week. And I would encourage you, if you get a moment, to take a look at our social media pages to learn about some of the great drivers that represent Sysco every day. And even though that annual week of appreciation has passed, maybe next time you see a driver at a local stop or at a grocery store or at a Sysco customer, stop and say thank you and recognize them for the vital role that they play within our supply chains. They really are the heart and soul of what we do. And with that, thank you very much for having me today. I've appreciated the opportunity to be here and to see some good old friends that I recognize from back in my days in Southern California.
Thank you, Marie. And thanks for highlighting those essential workers, our truck drivers.
So, Marie, thank you very much. And hey, nice to see you. I'm glad to see your face in person, and I hope you're doing well. And thanks for taking time to speak. Our path crossed.
Thank you, Nick.
Our path crossed.
Yes.
And
it's great to see you again too.
Pleasure to see you. And then obviously Kevin now leads the Sysco, and he and I, we actually work together at Sears.
So yes, he speaks highly. He speaks warmly of you, Nick.
Likewise. So it's great to see you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. I think it's brilliant.